You know, Ralph,
Yep.
I would love that you can ask me certain questions that I don't usually speak my mind because I'm so have this censorship thing in Singapore. But if you do ask me, I will be forced to answer. Okay, we
I'll get in
are
trouble.
going we are going on live in just a couple of seconds. And we are on live right now. And you are looking at the Platinum platform and myself, your host and co-host, Mr. Ralph Ave. We are with you today on the Platinum platform and on my professional Facebook profile, Vicky Esther Chang. Again, today we're going to continue the new podcast season, State of Our World, Humanity for Better or for Worse. And we have dwelled about this topic for the past 2 episodes, and we've got good feedback, as in the number of views have gone up. This is something, a topic that many people are concerned about, but they are so disenfranchised, or they're so shut out, they've lost their voices, or they are just too tired to talk about it. So we are giving everyone an opportunity to talk about our worldview from our perspective. And our perspective is from where we are. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be in the middle. There's no right and wrong. It's just where we see things and how we see things from our perspective. And I am Vicky Esther Chang. It is 1:32 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon in Singapore, right here, 1 degree north of the equator. And this very special podcast season, my dear friend there, Mr. Ralph Ave, all the way from California, USA. He is my dear co-host, and we've got a new co-host coming up, Miss Preet Srivastava from New York, who's an artist. She will come on at the end of the week. Look up for the dates and the time with her. Ralph, tell us where you are, what time, and how's the temperature over there?
The 10:33 California Tuesday, and it's hot. It's still summertime here. I live in the desert, so
Great, great. Wow, I love that.
yeah.
Okay, just to tell everyone, I know the world is so divided right now. But there are something that is similar with everyone. I would say the basic values, the basic needs that we all need at the fundamental, the lowest denominator level is the same. We want to survive. We want to thrive. We want to live better, and we want the world to be better. We want to live in a world whereby we are at peace with our neighbors, right? And we want to live in a world where there is hope, and that we are working on something that is meaningful to us and to the future generation. I think these are basic things that ties the whole humanity. Yes, we're in a post-pandemic world, but what did the pandemic teach us? It really taught us that we are in one fate. And I think social media has really taught us that we are more the same than different. People want that Mercedes car tomorrow. People want that instant gratification too. And I think it has unraveled a lot of needs and a lot of, I should say, illuminated a lot of similarities in people like you and I from different parts of the world coming together in this digital era. And I would say that, Ralph, through our podcast, through our numerous collaborations with yourselves and the whole partnership and collaborators with the group through the Platinum platform, it really shows that we are achieving commonality and understanding through this digital era. And we have left off about quiet quitting last week, Ralph. We talked about people are quiet quitting their jobs. And there is something quite serious because it's such a world phenomenon. Ralph, do you want to tell us what you feel about quiet quitting? It's such a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Your take on it, Ralph?
Well, quiet quitting to me is people are just doing their jobs. They're not going above and beyond anymore because some companies don't reward the over above and beyond
Yeah.
kind of work. So people will just um what do you call it, just do what they have to do and that's it. Um that's what quiet quitting is to me. And I notice, it's becoming a common thing now. You hear about people working so hard and going above and beyond, and then their raises are exactly the same as somebody who didn't do as much. And there's
Mm,
someone who like, what's the point of
yeah,
working so hard? So a lot of people are just gonna go to their jobs and just do what they need to do and go home.
yeah.
There's no point for them anymore to just go above and beyond. And it sucks because
Yeah.
one, you're not getting rewarded for it, and two, sometimes those people aren't like that. But if those kind of people aren't like that, then what's the reason to stay? They're gonna probably move on, find somewhere they have self gratification in what they do.
Yeah, and you know, you have brought up a very sensitive topic and a quiet topic. I would really think that it's such a pun, right? It's quiet topic because it's not something that people talk about. You talk about it with your wife, right? I would talk about it with my husband, for example. You will talk a little bit with the closest members within your social circle. Are going to pick a job and maybe why, or maybe you won't even want to talk about it because you're so disenfranchised, right, with the system. And you could be under a corporate system. So I do hear you, Ralph, and it's such a phenomenon, not only I think within your realm, I think it's such a social global phenomenon post-pandemic. Um, probably even in Singapore. There hasn't been a statistic done, but reports have found globally that it's such a phenomenon because people are just moving away and people are just getting this feeling of disenfranchisement, being disillusioned. And I think you hit the nail on the head, reward system, right? And the reward system, I would call it the sense of inequity. Because when you don't have a right, correct, balanced system of rewarding people who have plowed in their lives, their hours, and making sacrifices for their lives, because you can only be in one place and do one thing at the same time, at one thing at a
Right.
time, right? Even you multitask, you can only be in one place at a time. I would call it that inequity, the feeling of inequity that the system is not recognizing in terms of reward, and the reward could be intrinsic, extrinsic recognition, monetary, non-monetary, in terms of grades, in terms of overt awards. That's inequity. If there isn't such a mechanism in place, people feel that why am I giving up certain sections of my life that's not going to come back?
Right.
Right? If you lose 1 year of your life, you lose 1 year of your life and you're gonna not get it back. And I think it gets back to this notion that I really wanted to talk about is, do huge systems like that, and I'm not talking about conspiracy system, I'm talking about mechanisms. It could be a corporation, a company, it could be a quasi-government company, it could be a governmental organization, it could be a non-governmental organization. That's why leadership is so important, because
Yes.
the leadership is at the top. They look at the mechanism they're going to set in. How are they going to reward equitably? How are they going to reward in a system whereby there is balance. And if you can't reward people monetarily because the company is losing money, there are other ways of rewards, right? Recognition, promotion, awards. Now, this is a huge mechanism that is in the hands of the top authority. And the top authority determines that mechanism that it wants the people to live under. So I think that we're touching upon a big system post-pandemic that people start to realize, why am I giving my lives, the lives that we have, to a big system, a big corporation that is not going to recognize the amount of hard work, the amount of overtime that I sacrifice with my children, with other opportunities that is out there, the time with my life, and I sacrifice my health, my number of sleep, and then at the end, you're not recognizing that. You don't see that, or you just kind of crash and burn my effort. So
Right.
Ralph, do I hit that kind of sentiment that you have?
Yeah, I mean it depends too who your leaders are, right? Are your
Yeah.
leaders empowering the middle management? Is the middle management empowering their employees? Um, I've had I've had bosses where they told me, you do what you need to do to make this program run. Okay, got it. So they gave me that authority to do all that. And then I've been to some places where it's just you've just been micromanaged, and it's like, hey, you got that done yet? I'm like, we just got out of the meeting. I just started this. You asked me 30 minutes. This is a 2 hour process. And you're asking me if I'm done already? I've only been on this thing for 30 minutes. So it's, I've been on two sides of the thing. And another thing is where I gave so much where I had to travel a lot. I was gone almost half the year. And then I come back, like, oh, we don't need you no more. It's like, what? So it comes to the point where you decide as yourself what's best for you, what's best for your family. I mean, I sacrificed so much family time, and that's how they rewarded me. And I was like, nah, I'm done.
You
This is
know,
not fun.
yeah, and this is emblematic, if I get that word right, emblematic of a lot of um corporations, or I should say organizations, where the top can determine the mechanism, but they did not.
Mhm.
And there is a lot of power play in it, Ralph. I think you know what I'm trying to say. A lot of subtle power play, um, because someone exercises the power over you, and then they could determine you or the strata of people, and then they can say, well, you don't have to come back anymore tomorrow. So I feel that that kind of power has to be in the conversation. Um, I'm not talking about unions. I'm not talking about like forces like that, but I'm just saying that there must be a conversation, that culture in an organization, which can be determined from the top, when it distills to the middle and the bottom, it has a great impact that is unseen, and it could be unforeseeable. That makes impact from the middle and the bottom. You're talking about people's lives. You're talking about people's jobs and how much people are willing to plow in. And we're talking about those days. I would like to share with you this article or the news that came out in India 2 months ago. The CEO of Infosys is a big corporation, one of the founders, such a huge corporation in the world. And he was saying that people should be like working like how many hours per day, etc., etc. And there was a big uproar. And I'm not saying that, I'm quite old school, Ralph, like you. When we are being employed, our value is we got to give it our all. We got to give it our best. We're giving our everything to make it work, because we're answerable to a call. When you're answerable to a call and you're being given a paycheck, or being given a task, whatever it is, you're gonna make it work. And you're gonna give it your ultimate best. You gotta sacrifice your youth, your life, your time, your sleep, your family. You sacrifice yourself to make things work because that's a task you've been entrusted with. People like us work with that kind of sense of mission.
Yes.
The missionary call, be it anything. But when it is not being recognized, and the top says, hey, after 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, they say that, hey, our company or organization have come to a point, we don't need you now because you have built this way up. We're good right now. All right, bye. I feel
Right.
there's this power that is being determined by the top, that people in the middle or the bottom, through their contractual relationship or their power relationship, the power play, does not address the people in the middle or the bottom that, hey, I've helped you out, but you didn't say goodbye in a nice manner. And you did not even thank me or look back to the amount of reward that, but again, reward doesn't need to be monetary, but we should reward people monetarily because it talks about paying the bills. And it's the most foreseeable, tangible thing. Ralph, that came up uproar in India. Everyone was like, it's such a big uproar because the CEO or the founder was saying, you should be giving this amount of time, how many, 75 hours per week, and you should be giving your life. And then people were just saying that, no, you forgot your word because we need a commensurate amount of reward for the amount of time. So we forgot the people have needs too. So Ralph, I think that phenomenon comes up post-pandemic. People start to wake up to the fact, Ralph.
Yeah, after the pandemic, everybody realized they could telework, right? They don't have to be in that same state. So there's people in Arizona who's working for California companies and vice versa, or because that's what the pandemic opened up. Um, Now people are realizing, oh, I don't have to commute anymore. I just go on my computer and work. That's kind of the trend I'm seeing now. But also,
Yeah.
if you have management that's taking care of you, even your leadership, at the lowest levels, are they taking care of you, or are they just looking out for themselves? Are they just stepping on everybody else so they
Yeah.
can get up the ladder instead of trying to make everybody else look good?
Yeah.
It's one example I think I brought up before is a company I work for. We got the team award, and it wasn't monetary, but single awards were, individual awards were. So as a lead, I'm like the lowest of leadership, right? As I'm just a lead, I'm under a supervisor. I went straight to my director and said, "You're sending the wrong message. How can you keep preaching about teamwork, and we got team award, but you don't want to give us anything monetarily? Yeah, what kind of message is that sending? You only award the individuals here, but yet you preach teamwork every day." So he kind of like realized it, and he said, "Give me the names of the people who's on that team award." And the next week, we got our bonuses. It was like $300 each. So
Yeah.
it depends what kind of person you have leading you. Also,
Yeah.
are they empowering you? Are they making you feel fulfilled? Or are they
Yeah.
just micromanaging you and just looking out for themselves
Looking
instead
out
of
for
trusting their
themselves. Yeah.
yeah instead of
So
trusting
it's
their team?
it's it's that mechanism that is in place. Working from home is a totally different issue, but it's an issue that management will have to address because it's in the whole machine. If there are people, their mothers who need to stay back because they need to take care of their ailing spouse, or their fathers or their mothers with the kid, etc. Now, so it is embedded in the whole mechanism. It has to be reviewed, and also reward and punishment, etc. and rewarding equitably, recognizing equitably, and growing equitably. I think that's very important. That's something that I think um, has to be addressed. And I think you and I were speaking and voicing out this topic for the rest of the world who's looking at it. Ralph, I also mentioned about the power play, right? Something that I talked about. Um, I hope that I can write a book about it, corporate autocracy, about the power play and about the leadership mechanism, how it determines the life of the people below you, where they do not have a say when you say that, hey, thank you so much, goodbye, you don't have to come back tomorrow. I think that there's something not humanitarian about that. I hope that I can bring it up in future podcasts. But I think we are speaking on behalf of a lot of people, just voicing this out, the mechanism and authority above us. Now, you have been in positions of leadership, right?
Mhm.
Like what you said, you were leading teams in your military days. I want to hear from you. Now that you're leading young people, and we talked about that, the world that we're going to leave behind. And in short, I do know that you see America, where you are, the context, a very hopeful place that young people can strive and live their dreams. I want to hear from you. What do you think are the characteristics and the qualities of people that need to have to arm themselves with in these times or the times of the future?
Well, just being open-minded, and I always say grit, right?
Yeah.
They they have to go through life. I tell them that you're gonna fail. I don't care how hard you study. I don't care how hard you work. There's a point in your life where you're gonna fail, and it's not gonna be just one time. You're gonna
Yeah.
fail multiple times. Um, I've yeah, I made it to the top rank of the Air Force, but people don't realize that journey I had to go through. There's
Mhm.
times where I just like, man, is it worth it? Is it worth it for me getting there? Or and then there are times where I'm just gonna do my job and whatever happens, happens. But
Yeah.
through all this, I mean, I failed at briefing people. I failed at making decisions, and and you just have to recover from that. And that's what these kids need to have now. Like, even if you fail, it's not the end of the world. It's, just pick yourself up, keep moving forward.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And you're right, because we talked about that, about keep moving forward. And I briefly touched on the fact about expectations, right? Because we keep telling the kids, not kids, we keep telling people like, okay, if you learn this, if you go to school, you're gonna get ahead. You're gonna get to where you want to be, right? There is always this subliminal message there. Well, if I get this education or this skill, um, you will be able to get that house, you will be able to get that Mercedes, you will be able to get a quality, a basic quality, dignified life, right?
yeah,
And I
but
think, yeah, and I think we keep telling the kids like, and we keep having this expectation. Okay, I'll delete the word kids, but we keep having this expectation that if you do this amount, right, you will get this. We're talking about social mobility. We're talking about people who can get ahead. Do you think your generation compared to your children's generation, how do you compare their generation to yours? Is it going to be easier to get ahead or is it going to be harder to get ahead in America?
I think no matter what, it's mindset, right? Because when we were growing up, we seen the boom stages of the internet where we
Mm,
didn't have any internet before, and then it started slowly picking up. Then all of a sudden, we saw this boom. Right now,
mm,
these kids have all this information in their palm of their hands. So if they can figure out, okay, I want to get to here, I want to get to there. There's not just one way to get there, right? Like 1 plus 3 is 4. What's 2 plus 2? That's 4 also. There's other ways to get to their goals. It's not just, you know, that's what I'm afraid of teaching. A lot of these kids are being taught, do this, and you'll get there. No, there's other ways. Education is
other
different.
ways. Uh,
So you can go
yeah.
to a formal school, right? Or you can go learn from a billionaire who's gonna invest in you and teach you the ropes on how he got there. And that's education, right? It's not a formal education, but
It's an
that's an
education of
education for life.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's teaching you real life skills, you know, and in the military, um, I know this kid, he's in cybersecurity now, making $80,000 a year as like he's like 22, 23. He spent 4 years in the military, then doing cybersecurity, got out, and now making that much money, right? Compared to a kid who went to college, no hands-on, mostly theory, and then trying to find a job out there, having
Yeah.
being $100,000 in debt because he spent all that, he got loans for his education, right? Compared to this kid who decided to serve his country and he has no school debt. And if he wants to go to school, he has those benefits because he served his country.
Yeah.
So it's like who's better off, really?
Yeah.
One already has a life skills because he's done it for 4 years. The other one's all in classroom. So
Yeah.
like I
And
said, there's other ways to get your education.
yeah. I totally agree with you, Ralph. You know, I keep putting my thumbs up to what you say. And I like to bring this point, the way I see the world right now, in relation to what you just said, because I totally agree and I echo you. And I wrote down the points. I'm such a good student, right? Um, I think we're entering into an era whereby it's so unstructured, chaos right now. We're trying to find sense of the world. It's like what Warren Buffett. I was watching an interview. He said when he was being interviewed, um, he was asked what changed now. He said 20 years ago or his time, you've got an X number of billionaires holding an X amount of dollars of wealth in the world right now. But at this time, you've got much smaller number of people who hold an overwhelming compounded amount of wealth of the world. He's just making a fact, okay? He's just making a fact. But he did say that there are young people you observe right now who got very wealthy very fast using the mechanism right now, okay? Which of course in his times was different because he compared it to at his time, you were a farmer, you built a steel mill, and you've got your cows and you roll it out there and then you worked hard at that. He was just making facts and observations. He wasn't like saying good or bad. Those were the days whereby, to me, I see it as there was a structured approach because we were developing the world in a way, but the baseline was really low because you had to go through the agriculture, then the world development, and then slowly the technology development. And people's education were kind of systematic in terms of the trends of the development of the world. You can kind of get the jobs that's kind of be available for you when you get there. But however we were at this times of our lives, everything has been disrupted. We are in a very disruptive era. And disruption is such a big thing right now that anyone can come in and disrupt the whole economy and the whole model of the world. And I'm talking, I think you know what I'm talking. And because technology, one of the things is technology, amongst the many things, that is interplay. It's one of the forces that interplay because it comes into the system or into the world right now, and it kind of disrupts the world, the old world direction. It becomes disruptive. And then you get to go to a direction. And then that another technology comes in, it kind of disrupts you again, and you may go this way, and then kind of branches out this way. And then another technology comes in, it kind of goes this way. So we're in a very disruptive, unpredictable, volatile way, in a real way, whereby we do not know, like we talked about AI last week,
Yes.
and whereby Oprah Winfrey, she's going to pick it up. She's going to talk about AI. Is it real? How's it going to disrupt our lives? But AI is just one of the forces. Look about the wars. Look about anything that comes in. Look about the election in America. They are one of the many forces that's going to make the world go a different way, but we can't predict. And the education that we have is still really structured, right?
Yes.
The formal education right now, we're coming back here, like what we are just talking about, is really structured. It's only a one-way street. And we are telling the kids, the world is no more a one-way street. Whatever we taught you in the school may not be applicable by the time you get out. And whatever
No.
the education is promising you will fail or may fail when you get out. So suddenly, things that is in a straight line or things that is in a linear trend suddenly becomes so disrupted. It becomes just become disrupted in, I would call it a fragmented multi-dichotomy direction of the world. That whatever we are going to talk about it right now in a very structured manner will never happen. That's the dream right now. So this is the way I see the world. If you're gonna ask me like how do I see the world, humanity for better or for worse, to me it's a simple word. Number one, spirituality. We're gonna talk about faith. Our values is diluted. The world is dilute. We are diluting ourselves in terms of values, in terms of faith, beliefs, the way we behave, the way we react to things. I think we're into a very diluted humanity. Ralph, over to you. Your response to what I just said. It's quite a mouthful, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the way the world's going, I mean, like I said, it's the mindset of that person, right? They can think negative or positive on how to get things to work. Um, there's no real right answer. I mean, it can be some people are doing worse than us and some people are doing better than us. It's always going to be the case in this world. But for some weird reason, uh, for the powers that be, it doesn't get fixed, right? And like you said about education, it's been structured that way for the hundreds of years. But yet, the people that are most successful are who broke out of that box. They get out of that lane and they're like, oh, wait a minute. If I do this, then I can get to that goal I want to faster than if I do it this way. There's like I said, there's always other ways to get to your goals.
Ralph, I can't agree with you more. In your lane, right? You're educated as an accountant, you're educated as a doctor, you're educated as an architect, as an engineer. You go this way, right? Simply said, right? You're a mathematician, you go this way, right? But the world is coming to such a chaos right now. The economy is such a chaos right now. That's why I go back to what Warren Buffett said, and you said, very young people are becoming billionaires.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, it's already happening. Look around YouTube, look around people who are influencers, right? And we're not putting a normative judgment on it. We're not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is right now. We're looking at it. And how do we respond to that? That's what I'm trying to say. And because you talked about lane and I wrote it down, it's a lane that we put in the mindset of our generation. You are educated as this, a nurse, you become a nurse. Doctor, you become a doctor. But I'm trying to say what I see is economies will struggle, like in Singapore, because we've educated a whole generation or multiple generations to go this way, who stay in their lane and who cannot think out of their lane. And when their world is disrupted and when the world is disrupted, they become helpless because they cannot save themselves. They cannot think that, hey, I can't get out of the lane and become better because it's untried. It is a glass wall. And it is a wall that they created, and it's a glass ceiling that they created. As opposed to, if you look at what's happening on YouTube, I mean, I get such an education out of that, looking at a whole. There are people who are in societies that did not emphasize so much on this rigid formal education to strive to the top. They are the one who are making the billions and the millions because they found their
Yeah,
way in the chaos. Because in the economy whereby it's chaotic, you needed people with the skill who is able to survive in a chaotic world. And people who are in a chaotic world right now, they are the survivors. If you know what I'm trying to say, and I'm talking about geographically, if you look at people who are really succeeding out there, are people without a world of formal education, because they are told there is no one way. You are not like going to be a mathematician. You are going to find your way to success. Does it ring something in you, Ralph?
yeah. It reminds me of what somebody said. Like in the Philippines, they're considered third world, right? One they interviewed one group and they said, "Man, there's no opportunities here." Then they interviewed another group. They're like, "There's so many opportunities here. Just open your mind." And
Mm.
again, it's that mindset, right? Yeah,
You get that. Yes, mindset and the view of the world. And I
yeah,
keep telling people, like, get out, get out of that well. If you're gonna be the frog under the well, you're gonna just see the world like this. You're just gonna see that tunnel, that tunnel vision. And we talked about the tunnel vision years ago, right? When we're in a podcast before, in your show, in our show, that tunnel vision. I think back to the question, what are the characteristics and the values and the qualities that will make anyone survive in this generation or in this world that is already the future? um it's gonna, which is a chaos right now because it's going different ways. It's gonna be the skill set and the mindset. It's gonna
hmm
be a diverse skill set and mindset that you can take on the world, not only in
yeah,
one lane but in multiple lanes, if you dare to, and if you take it on. And that takes grit, and that takes courage, and that takes breaking down the glass walls and breaking down the ceiling. I was just telling a friend, I'm sick of living in fear of just being in one lane. Ralph, tell me about that living in fear and the mindset.
yeah. That's gotta get out of your system, you know. And one thing is, your fear of failure has to go away. Like I said, everybody's gonna fail at some point in their lives and multiple times. And
Mm,
then what most of these successful people have in
expectations.
common is consistency. No matter what happened, they just kept going.
Wow, I love that.
So
And
it,
I think we want to end with your quote: no matter what happens, just keep on going. And I think this is the value and the mindset that will take the generation to the world of the future that we're in right now. If the world or your audience looking on, you understand, and please respond to this. Do not give up. It's going to be such a diverse world that is disrupted. We don't know which direction we're going. Um, yeah, we're in such a crossroads right now. Putin has just gone to Mongolia, I think, um, gone to a country where he's supposed to be captured, but he was celebrated. Putin, if you look at that, right or wrong, it's just a fact that we're reporting. Okay, um, things that we think are going to happen may not happen. It's a gap between reality and expectations. And then if that doesn't happen, are we gonna fail if we don't go there? So it's everything comes into play,
mhm.
right? If you can't reach out, do you consider yourself a failure? Or do you just say, hey, it's a lesson learned, let's turn the direction? So I hope to in fact we are concluding this episode with your code. Do not give up. Just train ahead. That is something that we all need in this world right now. Lots of opportunities if you look around, and don't stay within your lane. like what you say, hey, there's so much opportunities, right? When you go onto an island, no one's wearing shoes. You can say, hey, there's no opportunity. I can't sell shoes here because no one wearing shoes. Or you can say, hey, there are lots of opportunities because people aren't wearing shoes.
Well,
You know that story? I think we have heard it a million times. So thank you so much, Ralph, for being here. We are about 35 minutes, almost, 35 minutes into the show. I thank you so much for such a intense podcast and such an authentic podcast that we're speaking from our hearts. We are politically correct, by the way. We are embracing all kinds of diverse views. Come on to us. You have a space here. Comment, talk about it in a way that it doesn't hurt or hate anyone. Your views as an adult, comment. But I do see people looking up our 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 shows. So I invite the audience to come on again tomorrow, same time. Mr. Ralph Ave and myself and him signing off from California. Ralph?
all right, thank you for having me, Vicky. Hope everyone's doing good out there.
Yeah. Would you like to wrap up in a minute or two the show as a co-host?
Just thanks for tuning in. I hope it's educational or at least informative, at least piqued somewhat of a new interest that you didn't think about. And just like this, Vicky's in Singapore, I'm in the USA, and technology this wouldn't have happened while we were in our teens. So
Better make use of it. It's free.
yep.
While it's free, you never know which dictator is going to come in and chop it off. So, ladies and gentlemen, never take your lives in the world for granted. I always say we are sitting on the world's biggest phenomenon right now. It's so changed. Just sit down, pause, stop, take, and then evaluate. We're sitting in a world that is so changed right now. We're sitting on this big, huge machine called Facebook and Zoom and whatever have you out there. We are in the fifth industrial revolution. You like it or not, when you wake up, the world has already changed. It doesn't happen like ding, 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 but it has already happened. Thank you so much, Ralph. We come back for tomorrow's episode with you. Hope that's not the end. This is the most intense podcast 2024. You join us, ladies and gentlemen, and tell us what keeps you up at night and what's happening in your world. The state of our world, humanity, for better or for worse, tell us. We want you to be here. Thank you, Ralph. Signing off from Singapore.
Thank you, Vicky.
We'll see you tomorrow, Ralph.